Karen reported my treehouse as a violation, so I built a watchtower with a telescope aimed at her. The summer I turned 13, I built a treehouse in the sprawling oak behind our house. It wasn't just any treehouse, it was my fortress, my escape from the world. I'd spent months hauling lumber, hammering nails, and dreaming of a place where I could read comics, stargaze, and pretend I was a pirate sailing the high seas. The oak's branches cradled my creation like a mother's arms, and from up there, I could see the whole neighborhood. Kids biking down Maple Street, old Mr. Hensley watering his roses, and the endless blue sky stretching beyond the rooftops. I'd named it the Crow's Nest, a nod to my pirate fantasies. My best friend, Leo, helped me paint the walls with glow-in-the-dark stars and smuggle snacks from his mom's pantry. We'd spend hours up there, laughing until our sides hurt, planning adventures we'd never take. It was perfect until Karen moved in next door. Karen was the kind of person who ironed her curtains and measured her lawn with a ruler. Her house was a sterile box of beige siding and perfectly trimmed hedges, like something ripped from a catalog. The first time I met her, she was standing at our fence, clipboard in hand, complaining that my dad's grill was too close to the property line. She had a smile that didn't reach her eyes and a voice that sounded like it was auditioning for a customer service hotline. Dad just nodded, moved the grill, and muttered under his breath about nosy neighbors. I didn't think much of her until the day a city inspector showed up at our door. He was a tired-looking man with a badge and a notepad, and he kept glancing at Karen's house like he'd rather be anywhere else. "We got a complaint about an unpermitted structure," he said, pointing at my treehouse. "It's a safety hazard, apparently." I stood on the porch, my stomach twisting. Safety hazard? I'd built that treehouse with my own hands, checked every nail, tested every board. It was sturdier than half the houses on our street. Dad tried to reason with the inspector, but the guy just shrugged. Rules are rules. You'll need to tear it down or get a permit, and permits for treehouses, well, good luck. That night, I saw Karen through her kitchen window, sipping tea and looking smug. I knew it was her. Who else would care about a kid's treehouse? Leo came over, and we sat in the crow's nest, fuming. "She's got no life," Leo said, tossing a pretzel at the wall. "Bet she's just jealous 'cause she never had a treehouse." I wanted to scream, to march over and tell her what I thought of her stupid clipboard and her stupid rules. But Dad said to let it go. "She's not worth the trouble, Sam," he told me. "Pick your battles." I didn't want to pick my battles. I wanted to win them. The next morning, I woke up with an idea so wild it made my heart race. If Karen wanted to play dirty, I'd play smarter. I wouldn't just rebuild, I'd go bigger. I'd turn my treehouse into something she couldn't ignore, something that'd make her regret ever picking up that phone. Leo was all in when I told him my plan. "A watchtower?" he said, eyes wide. "With a telescope? Dude, that's epic." We spent the next week scheming. Dad had an old shed full of scrap wood and tools, and Leo's uncle worked at a hardware store, so we scored some cheap supplies. I sketched designs on graph paper, calculating angles and heights like I was some kind of mad architect. The new structure would be taller, stronger, and most importantly legal. I spent hours at the library, poring over city codes, learning words like setback requirements and maximum allowable height. Karen wanted rules? I'd give her rules. By the end of the month, we'd built the watchtower. It rose from the oak like a monument, 20 feet high, with a platform wide enough for 2 chairs and a telescope I'd saved up for. The telescope was the crown jewel, a sleek black tube with a lens that could pick out craters on the moon. Or, say, the details of a certain neighbor's backyard. We painted the watchtower red, just to make sure Karen couldn't miss it. When we finished, Leo climbed up and let out a whoop that echoed across the street. "Take that, Karen." I felt invincible. Every night, I'd climb up, adjust the telescope, and watch her house. Not in a creepy way, just enough to know what she was up to. She'd mow her lawn at exactly 7 a.m., glare at kids who biked too close to her driveway. And once, I swear, I saw her measuring her mailbox with a tape measure. I kept a notebook, jotting down her routines like I was a detective. Leo called it Operation Karen Crush, and we'd laugh ourselves silly imagining her face when she realized we'd outsmarted her. But Karen wasn't done. One afternoon, I came home to find another city inspector at our door this time, a woman with a tight bun and a no-nonsense stare. "We've had another complaint," she said. Your structure exceeds the height limit for accessory buildings. I couldn't believe it. I checked the codes, measured everything twice. Dad looked at me, his face a mix of frustration and pity. Sam, what's going on here? This isn't just a treehouse anymore. I tried to explain, but the words tumbled out in a mess. How could I tell him I was fighting a war against a woman who'd made it her mission to ruin my life? The inspector left us with a notice. We had 30 days to comply or face fines. That night, I sat in the watchtower, staring at Karen's house through the telescope. Her lights were off, but I could imagine her smirking, her clipboard ready for the next attack. Leo came over the next day, but even he was starting to lose steam. Maybe we should just stop, he said, picking at a splinter on the railing. She's not worth it, man. I didn't answer. I couldn't. The watchtower wasn't just a building, it was me proving I wasn't powerless. If I gave up, what did that make me? Then came the twist I didn't see coming. One evening, as I was sweeping the telescope across the neighborhood, I noticed a light in Karen's attic. It flickered, faint and erratic, like a candle. I zoomed in, expecting to see her reorganizing her collection of complaint forms. Instead, I saw a kid. He couldn't have been older than 10, with messy hair and glasses too big for his face. He was sitting cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by books and toys, reading by the light of a flashlight. I froze. Karen had a kid? In all my spying, I'd never seen him. No one had. He didn't play outside, didn't ride a bike, didn't even go to school as far as I knew. I watched him for a while, feeling like I'd stumbled onto something I wasn't supposed to see. He looked lonely. The way he hunched over his book, the way his flashlight wobbled in his hand, it reminded me of me, before the crow's nest, before Leo. I lowered the telescope, my stomach churning. Who was this kid? And why was he hiding in Karen's attic? The next day, I couldn't focus. I kept thinking about that boy, about the way his world seemed to end at those attic walls. I told Leo, expecting him to laugh it off, but he got quiet. Maybe he's, like, her secret nephew or something, he said. Or maybe she's keeping him prisoner. I rolled my eyes, but the thought stuck with me. I started watching the attic more, looking for clues. The boy was there every night, always alone, always reading. Once, I saw him press his face to the window, staring out at the street like he was searching for something. It made my chest tight, like I started wondering what kind of life he had with Karen. Was she as hard on him as she was on me? Was he trapped, like I felt trapped? I decided to find out. One afternoon, when I was at soccer practice, I slipped a note into Karen's mailbox. It was simple, scrawled in my messiest handwriting. I saw you in the attic. Want to meet at the oak tree at 9 p.m.? A friend. I didn't expect a reply, but that night, I waited in the watchtower, my heart pounding. At 9 p.m., I saw the attic window creak open. The boy leaned out, clutching a piece of paper. He dropped it, and it fluttered to the ground. I scrambled down and snatched it up. In tiny, careful letters, it read, "My name's Eli. I'm Karen's son. Please don't tell her. She doesn't know I go up there." Eli, Karen's son. The words hit me like a punch. All this time, I'd seen Karen as the enemy, but I'd never thought about who else might be in that house, who else might be caught in her web of rules. I wrote back, my hands shaking. "I'm Sam. Meet me tomorrow. I've got a place you'll like." The next night, Eli climbed down a trellis and met me at the oak tree. Up close, he was even smaller than I'd thought, with pale skin and eyes that darted like a scared animal's. "You're not going to tell my mom, right?" he whispered. I shook my head. "Promise." I led him up to the watchtower, half expecting him to bolt. But when he saw the red paint, the telescope, the glow-in-the-dark stars, his face lit up like a firework. "This is wow," he said, touching the railing like it was magic. We talked for hours. Eli was nothing like his mom. He loved sci-fi books and dreamed of being an astronaut. He told me Karen was really strict. She homeschooled him, kept him inside most of the time, said the world was too dangerous. The attic was his escape, the only place he could read what he wanted. He'd found my old comic books up there, left behind from when our house was hers. I felt a chill. Karen had lived in our house. I hadn't known that. It made her complaints feel even more personal, like she was trying to control what wasn't hers anymore. But looking at Eli, I realized something else. This fight wasn't just about me. It was about him, too. Eli became my secret ally. Every night, when Karen thought he was asleep, he'd sneak out to the watchtower. We'd share comics, eat stolen cookies, and talk about everything from aliens to time travel. He was sharp, funnier than I'd expected, with a dry wit that caught me off guard. Once, when I complained about Karen's latest complaint, something about my dad's car parked too far onto the curb, Eli snorted and said, "She probably measures her own shadow to make sure it's regulation length." I laughed so hard I nearly fell off the platform. But the Watchtower wasn't just a clubhouse anymore. It was a rebellion. Eli's stories about Karen painted a picture of a woman obsessed with control. She timed his meals, monitored his reading, and once grounded him for a week because he'd drawn a spaceship on his math homework. "She says imagination is dangerous," he told me, his voice small. "Says it makes you forget the rules." I hated her more than ever, but I also felt something new. Pity. Not for Karen, but for Eli. He was a prisoner in his own home, and the Watchtower was his only taste of freedom. I started to see my fight with Karen as something bigger, not just about my treehouse, but about giving Eli a chance to be a kid. Leo wasn't thrilled about our new recruit. "He's Karen's kid, Sam," he said, kicking a pebble across my backyard. "What if he rats us out?" But when he saw Eli's face light up at the telescope, even Leo softened. "Fine," he muttered. "But if Karen comes for us, I'm blaming you." Our plan evolved. We'd keep the Watchtower standing, no matter what. I dug deeper into the city codes, finding loopholes Karen couldn't touch. The Watchtower was technically a temporary structure, exempt from some height restrictions if we didn't anchor it permanently. We reinforced it with removable bolts, making it a giant middle finger to her complaints. Every time a new inspector showed up, I'd whip out my research, quoting ordinances like a lawyer. They'd leave, scratching their heads, and Karen's scowl would deepen. But the real game-changer came from an unexpected source, Mr. Hensley, the rose guy. I'd always thought he was just a grumpy old man who loved his flowers too much, but one day, he caught me hauling wood to the oak. "What's all this?" he asked, leaning on his cane. I braced for a lecture, but instead, he grinned. "Heard about your war with Karen. That woman tried to get my roses banned, said they attracted bees." He spat the word like it was a curse. "You keep that tower up, kid. I'll help." Mr. Hensley turned out to be a retired engineer with a knack for mischief. He showed us how to stabilize the Watchtower with counterweights, making it look even more imposing. He even lent us an old weather vane shaped like a rooster, which we mounted on top just to annoy Karen. "She hates roosters," he said with a wink. "Had one as a kid, crowed her awake every morning." With Mr. Hensley's help, the Watchtower became a neighborhood legend. Kids started calling it Fort Sam, and some even snuck over to see it. We'd let them climb up, share our snacks, and tell stories about Karen's latest outrages. She'd called the city about a kid's lemonade stand, a dog's excessive barking, even a mailbox painted purple. The neighborhood was fed up, and the Watchtower was our rallying cry. But Karen wasn't one to back down. One morning, I woke to find her standing in our driveway, clipboard in hand, talking to a new inspector, a burly guy who looked like he bench-pressed City Hall for fun. "That structure is a public nuisance," she said, pointing at the Watchtower. "It's encouraging delinquency." Delinquency? I wanted to laugh. The only delinquent was her, terrorizing the neighborhood with her endless complaints. But the inspector wasn't like the others. He didn't flinch when I showed him my paperwork. "Temporary or not, it's too tall," he said. "You've got a week to take it down, or we'll do it for you." Dad was furious, not at me, but at the situation. "This has gone too far, Sam," he said. "I'm proud of you for standing up, but this is costing us money we don't have." I hadn't thought about the fines, the legal fees, the time Dad spent arguing with the city. Guilt twisted in my gut, but I couldn't let go. Not now. Not when Eli needed the Watchtower as much as I did. That night, Eli climbed up, his face pale. "Mom knows I've been sneaking out," he whispered. "She found my flashlight. She's locking the attic door tomorrow." I felt like I'd been punched. The Watchtower was his only escape, and now Karen was taking that, too. I wanted to storm her house, demand she let Eli be a kid. But what could I do? I was 13, not a superhero. Then came the second twist, the one that broke everything. The next morning, I found a letter in our mailbox, written in Karen's neat, looping handwriting. It wasn't a complaint, it was a plea. "Sam, I know you're behind the tower. I know you've been watching me. Please stop. You don't understand what you're doing to my son." I stared at the words, my head spinning. What I was doing to Eli? She was the one locking him in an attic, suffocating him with rules. I showed the letter to Leo and Mr. Hensley, expecting them to rally behind me. But Mr. Hensley's face fell. "There's something you don't know about Karen," he said, his voice heavy. "She used to be different. Before Eli's dad died. I hadn't known Eli's dad was gone." Mr. Hensley told us the story. Karen and her husband, Tom, had lived in our house years ago. They were happy, he said, always laughing, always hosting barbecues. But when Eli was 5, Tom got sick cancer, fast and cruel. Karen changed after that. She sold the house, moved away, and when she came back, she was the Karen we knew, cold, controlling, afraid of everything. "She's not evil," Mr. Hensley said. "She's scared of losing Eli like she lost Tom. That's why she keeps him so close." I didn't want to hear it. I wanted to hate her, to keep fighting. But Eli's face kept flashing in my mind, his quiet smiles, his dreams of stars. Was I helping him, or was I making things worse? That night, I climbed the Watchtower alone, staring at Karen's house through the telescope. The attic was dark. Eli was gone. The deadline came faster than I expected. The city sent a crew to dismantle the Watchtower, and I watched from the ground, my throat tight. Leo stood beside me, silent for once. Dad put a hand on my shoulder, but it didn't help. The oak looked naked without the Watchtower, like a king stripped of his crown. Karen didn't gloat. She didn't even come outside. But a week later, I saw Eli in their backyard, kicking a soccer ball. He looked up, saw me, and waved. I waved back, but it felt hollow. I'd lost the war, and I wasn't sure what I'd won for Eli. Months later, I got a package in the mail. It was a small telescope, secondhand but polished to a shine. A note was taped to it, in Eli's careful handwriting. "Thanks for the Watchtower. I'm okay now. Mom's letting me go to school next year. Eli." I cried when I read it, though I'd never admit it to Leo. Karen wasn't my enemy anymore. She was just a person, broken like the rest of us. I'd built the Watchtower to spite her, but it had done something else. It had given Eli a glimpse of freedom, and maybe, just maybe, it had reminded Karen what it meant to let go. The oak still stands in our backyard, empty but strong. Sometimes I climb it, just to feel the wind, to remember the crow's nest and the Watchtower and the summer I thought I could conquer the world. I wonder if Eli's looking at the stars, wherever he is. I hope he is. What do you think? Was I right to fight Karen's rules, to build that Watchtower and pull Eli into my rebellion? Or was I just a kid picking a fight I didn't fully understand? Share your thoughts. I want to know where you stand on the line between standing up and letting go.